Welcome to the Army Grandrounds. Experience Army medicine with our host, Sergeant First Class Phillips.
Good morning and
What is the
welcome to the
radius
U.S.
of
Army
pi?
Grandrounds
A news.
podcast. I'm your guest host today, Sean Jones. We have a special guest today, Lieutenant Que'Dale Phinazee. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you. So, sir, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, First Lieutenant Que'Dale Phinazee. I am a clinical laboratory officer, United States Army. 71 Echo is the AOC. Been in the Army now for 10 years. I had prior enlisted experience, so I was a 68 kilo medical laboratory technician for 7 years, and just 3 years ago, I transitioned over to be a clinical lab officer. The United States Army has been a major impact in my life. My father served for 24 years in the United States Army, started off as a combat medic and then transitioned to recruiting. And my grandfather was in the Marine Corps during the Vietnam War. So I've been surrounded by the United States Army for all of my life. And it's had a major impact. So it led me to want to serve as well. And it's led me to where I am, where I am today. It's been a great career thus far. My plan is to do the full 20. We'll see how that goes, but I'm motivated to finish out my entire Army career. I'm married. Me and my wife have been married for about 2 years now. No kids as of yet, but we're enjoying that married life. We're enjoying being together and living here in Fort Stewart, Georgia. Yeah, just a little about me.
Sir. Well, so since you're sort of a legacy kind of soldier, I guess, coming from a history or a military background, what kind of sprung you into changing from enlisted to going into the medical laboratory profession?
Yeah. So I enlisted. It may be a little unconventional. I enlisted after graduating from University of Kentucky. I got my bachelor's degree in human nutrition. So I always wanted to have a career in healthcare. At that time, I was actually looking towards pharmacy school. But I always, like I said, wanted to have a career in healthcare. I mentioned that my dad was in recruiting as well. So it was getting close to me to graduate. I was like, hey, Dad, I'm thinking about joining. What would be some options that I have? So one of the main prerequisites, of course, between enlisted and officers, that you have to have your bachelor's degree to be able to become an officer. So that was always going to be part of my plan, and my intention was to, at some point, strive to become an officer. It's just at that time for me, I did value and want to have that enlisted experience, to go through basic training, to understand what soldiers do on a day-to-day at that level. I felt like it would, at that time I felt that it would propel me to be a better leader in the future. So I definitely wanted to at least have the opportunity to become a non-commissioned officer before transitioning. So, and during that time, the jobs that were available in the healthcare field for the Army, what came back was lab tech, radiology tech, and pharmacy tech. So I jumped onto that lab tech job as soon as it was available, and it's been the foundation for what's got me to this point. So yeah, I say a little unconventional because were those opportunities there to do ROTC and really become an officer from the beginning? Absolutely, but I still value that enlisted experience that I have, and that time I spent as an NCO training soldiers, leading soldiers, leading up to me being accepted to direct commission as a clinical lab officer. So as far as the motivation, like I said, it came definitely from the impact that my father had in his career and growing up being around soldiers and officers my whole life. So I saw the value that the Army has, and then definitely just that willingness and want to serve my country. Just having that understanding that at any moment we have to deploy and defend our country. So there's a way of kind of merging my healthcare passion with service to that to our country. So that's where it comes from.
Love that, sir. Thank you. So it's funny because you holding two different careers in the Army is a little bit different than most people. So I guess, coming from enlisted and coming into the officer field, you said that being a leader and being an NCO and leading soldiers is sort of like your foundation, and you hold that pretty close. But what do you find, I guess, most fulfilling about being a medical lab officer now?
So it's definitely definitely a change and transition from going enlisted officer. But the most fulfilling thing, especially being here at Wynn Army Community Hospital at Fort Stewart, is having the ability to provide quality healthcare to our beneficiaries. Here we serve active duty, their family members, retirees. We see those patients every day, and especially from a lab manager standpoint, having the capabilities to provide those laboratory services that they need based off what their provider is needing to figure out and diagnose. Making sure their experience from start to finish is a good one. I tell my staff all the time, the hospital is probably not the one place a lot of people want to be at any given time. So they're probably not the happiest people coming in, but it's our job as laboratorians to do our best and have some take ownership of the work that we're doing to provide that healthcare to that patient. So it's really fulfilling to me to have a patient come and say, hey, thanks for taking care of me. Thanks for we're drawing your blood. Thanks for making sure my needs are met. That means the most. And then secondly to that, as far as being a leader, seeing my soldiers grow, seeing the students that we have progress and succeed, pass that certification exam, get promoted. I love, my favorite days in the Army are seeing one of my soldiers or any soldier get promoted, seeing that progression. That's very fulfilling, and being able to provide guidance whenever I can to help them be successful. That's probably the most fulfilling part of being the clinical lab officer and being an Army officer in general.
Outstanding, sir. It sounds like, you take your leadership seriously, and you appreciate and value your soldiers. But how do you balance, your leadership with your research responsibilities as well?
Yeah, so as far as where I am now, being in the hospital, it's definitely more clinical. There are opportunities to conduct research at other locations for enlisted and officers. So really, when I try to think about how to balance, it kind of goes hand in hand. So I have 33 staff members now, military and civilian. So I'm a leader for both. They all have expectations of me, and I have expectations of them. So when it comes to balancing that leadership, if anything, it's part of being a servant leader. So whatever they need to be successful in their job is my obligation to do my best to provide that for them. So whether it's a soldier that needs help to make sure that they pass their APFT, their physical fitness test, it's my job to make sure that they have the time to go conduct physical fitness. Whether it's the civilian tech that needs to get signed off in a particular laboratory skill, it's my job to make sure and ensure that they have the resources, the supplies, and the training personnel to be able to succeed in that area. So it kind of, that leadership aspect goes hand in hand with my role as a laboratory manager and as a clinical lab officer. Whatever that my staff and our department needs to be successful to meet the mission is what I'm obligated here to do. So the balance is in the job. if anything, it's part of the job for sure. And it has its challenges, of course, but it has its rewards as well. Because again, my favorite things is seeing the process, seeing the things that we implement actually go through, and seeing people progress and become better laboratorians, better soldiers, better technicians in general.
Thank you, sir. It's always fun for me to see people who are passionate about just the profession itself. I spent 20 years in the Army, retired, and now I do this. And I did sort of similar like your father. I started as a 13 Bravo, so I was field artillery, and then I changed over to recruiting. Yeah, so I retired as a recruiter. So yeah, big boys, gun bunnies. But it's always good to see like the energy of somebody that actually appreciates the profession, and somebody that actually loves what they do and can see the value in what they do. But I wonder, what skills or character traits do you think are required for somebody to fall into your field? Because every field's a little bit different. If you want to be an artilleryman, I would tell you, you got to have some good hearing and very strong and be willing to follow orders. There's every field in the Army has specific character traits that everyone should, have as a foundation. What do you think is important for clinical lab officers?
First and foremost, I would say communication skills, interpersonal, verbal, written communication skills. Like I said, you're managing laboratory operations, so you have to be able to effectively communicate to your staff, to the other departments within a hospital, to patients. You have to be able to effectively communicate what the laboratory's function and vital roles are so that they can better understand our processes. You have to be able to communicate the regulatory requirements that we all have to make sure we maintain to ensure that we are following all those regulations. You have to be able to communicate that. I have to give briefs almost daily or weekly on our capabilities as a laboratory. I have to do blood management. I have to do supply management. I have to be able to communicate what our capabilities are to higher level leadership, so they are able to push the mission forward. So being able to communicate is vital. One of the things I definitely can say, there's definitely two types of lab techs. There's definitely really sociable ones, and we can be hermits as well. But as a lab officer, you do have to step out and branch out and talk and advocate for the laboratory as well. So you can't always be stuck behind the desk and stuck behind email, although that is a perfect form of communication. But you have to be able to communicate. I'll also say that attention to detail is vital. When you're conducting laboratory testing, the keys are in the details of those analytes that you're testing for. We can notice things just from whatever the analyzers that we use, the results that are printing out. We interpret those results to give back to providers, but sometimes we have to get on a microscope and look at slides on blood cells. So you have to have very keen attention to detail. The organization skills, like I keep up with what we call the beans and bullets of laboratory. I keep up with supply. I keep up with the personnel actions. So I have to maintain some really good organization skills to meet deadlines, in order to keep things running here. And lastly, is just that the technical knowledge and skill set. I have to be technically proficient in not only my military duties, but also technically proficient in laboratory knowledge. The lab field is ever changing. We are advancing every day, which is great for the profession, but we also have to keep up. And I think that's one benefit of the Army as well, is that we're kind of at the forefront of those changes and advancements, but it's our job as laboratorians to be up to date with those changes. So you have to be plugged in, you got to be knowledgeable. You should be reading new research that comes out on blood therapies. You should be reading those things. So that's what I would think are some really good skills to have. Is first and foremost communication, attention to detail, and just good technical knowledge.
Sir, it sounds like you have a lot on your plate, if you ask me. It really does. And I know a lot of people may see this coming from civilian lives or whatever, and they look at us as Army professionals and they think that everything we do is challenging. And it sounds like you're just giving us a lot of challenges in your background, but how do you navigate those challenges on a daily basis? Like, what do you use to lean on, or who do you use to lean on to help you navigate those things?
Absolutely. So like anything, I don't do it by myself. So I have a great team within the laboratory that I rely on. Everything that we do is under the direction of a chief pathologist. So all of laboratory medicine falls under whoever that medical director for our location is. So for myself, that's Dr. Kimberly Fry. She's an excellent pathologist, and I rely on her knowledge and skill set heavily throughout the day. She also happens to be retired Navy. We sometimes butt heads about that, but she also has that military background as well, having been a pathologist in the Navy. So we rely on each other heavily. I have a civilian lab supervisor that I work hand in hand with. as well as at this point 4 non-commissioned officers, 4 68 kilo non-commissioned officers as well, who really are the backbone and who are executing the mission on a daily basis. Outside of my local department, I have all the other ancillary service departments. I work with radiology, I work with pharmacy, and then I have the network in general of other military treatment facilities to rely on. If there's something that maybe we want to integrate into our facility, maybe there's another facility that's already doing it, and I can reach out to them and gain that knowledge. The lab network within the DoD can seem small, but we are big and mighty. So I have a whole group that I can actually, hey, we're having an issue with this today. Does anyone have a resolution? And I get a quick response 100% of the time. So those challenges come, and if we're comparing to the civilian side, when it comes to hospital laboratories, it's going to be relatively the same. The same challenges that we see out in the civilian world when it comes to logistical challenges and getting the supplies that you need. Staffing challenges. Those things are out there in the civilian world, and we see those challenges as well. How we try to navigate that is definitely building contingency plans. For instance, if internet goes out, a lot of our machines run on electricity and run on internet. So we have a downtime procedure that we have in place to follow in the case that those things happen. And if anything, that's just all about managing risk, and that's embedded in military structures as well. Risk management is embedded, so you have to have your second and third plan in case your primary plan doesn't work. And again, that's no different to how things work in the civilian world. So if anybody maybe already has experience as a clinical lab scientist in the civilian world comes to the military, aside from adding in those military duties, the job itself should be very reflective of what they are already used to as far as managing the laboratory or even working in a clinical laboratory. It's structured the same, but when those challenges arise, you try to rely on your policy, rely on those contingency plans that you have, and do your best to input those things so that it limits any effect on patient care as a whole, because at the end of the day, we're here to provide that service. So we got to do what we can to ensure that we can continue to provide that service, no matter what challenges arise.
Outstanding, sir. It seems like you're an exceptional leader and very well spoken in terms of like your career field, and I appreciate that. And I hear you talk about your soldiers and taking care of them and stuff like that. But what types of opportunities do you have in your field for your own career progression? I know you're taking care of your soldiers and being the leader that you're supposed to be, but just worried about you personally. How do what opportunities do you have for career progression for you?
Absolutely. So specifically for 71 Echoes, clinical lab officers, I'm personally already looking into some of these programs myself. We have under the long-term health and education and training program that the Army offers, there's a multitude of graduate degrees, internships, secondary certifications that are available specifically for laboratory officers. So I mentioned earlier, part of my job is ensuring that we're following federal regulatory guidelines. So there's actually opportunities for lab officers to do an internship with College of American Pathologists, which is our accreditation agency. So 1-year internship where we go and we really delve into those requirements, those standards that CAP puts out, so that we can also be a part of an inspection team to go and inspect other laboratories. I've met a great deal of blood bank specialties, blood and transfusion services as a part of laboratory, and you can go to AABB and take the training to become specialized in blood banking. So that's definitely very important, not only for clinical medicine, but also for the military, especially for our deployed forces rely heavily on the blood products that we provide. So you can go and specialize in those areas. There's, like I said, the list goes on and on for long-term health and education and training. But what I've seen specifically for lab officers is the sky's the limit. There's PhD programs in microbiology. If your intent is to progress further within laboratory sciences, those opportunities are definitely available. Now, me myself also, I have some ambitions of wanting to do company command at some time. So that's not necessarily, because there's multiple different specialties within the Army. It's not necessarily something that's a part of my career path, but I had really great company commanders coming up through my enlisted time. So it's part of I and definitely want to at some point take company command and lead soldiers in that way as well, and kind of branch out. Even from there's opportunities to branch out of the laboratory as well. If that's something you're interested in. But if you're trying to progress within the field of medicine, I would definitely look towards those long-term health and education and training options, to get that graduate degree, to get that PhD, to get that secondary certification in blood bank or microbiology. Those things are definitely available. So, and I am personally looking into those things as well, if I want to make the next 10 years very, very worthwhile. So definitely.
I like that though. It's just opportunities are out there for you, and I appreciate that. You can share that with us. It seems like what you do is inspiring me in some way. You make me feel like I should be a lab officer or something.
Come on now.
I have a question though. So how does a person coming from off the street, a civilian, qualify for your field? It seems pretty inspiring to want to do, but what does it take to do it?
Yeah. So if you're coming outside of the military and you're wanting to join and come in, the minimum requirements are a bachelor's of science degree or a bachelor's degree in clinical laboratory science or a science equivalent, meaning microbiology, biology, chemistry. I mentioned myself that I had a bachelor's of science in nutrition. I could have that kind of flows more into the dietary side of things, but there was science prerequisites that I had to take in order to qualify for clinical laboratory officer, and they just happen to already be embedded in my bachelor's for nutrition. So as long as you have those prerequisite courses, that prerequisite coursework, or just straight up a bachelor's in laboratory science, that's one. And then you also have to pass and maintain a certification for medical laboratory science, or MLS or MT certification. That certification is through the American Society of Clinical Pathology. It's a nationally recognized certification. It's literally the gold standard for laboratory medicine. So all of our civilian lab techs and military clinical lab officers like myself have and possess that certification. And there's other accreditation agencies as well that offer equivalent certifications, but an MLS or MT certification is required. And then basically just being able to meet the requirements to serve in the military. So there's physical requirements that need to be met, and all the other things that I'm sure the recruiting team can probably adhere to. But the two main things are that bachelor's degree in a clinical laboratory science or a science equivalent, and that certification for medical laboratory sciences, and that gets you started in the door, and you'll be a clinical lab officer before you know it.
Gotcha. So, sir, you told us, I think you said you were at when? So you're in freaking Georgia, huh? Fort Stewart?
Fort Stewart, Georgia. Yep.
So what do you do for fun around in Fort Stewart? I mean, because everybody thinks about Army bases. If you look up Army bases, they're kind of like stationed all over the place, and they don't seem like in anywhere fun. So what could you possibly be doing fun in Fort Stewart?
Absolutely. So yeah, so we Fort Stewart, Georgia, actually is in Hinesville, Georgia, but I live in Richmond Hill, about 30 minutes away, so I commute to work. And we're really close to Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, Georgia is actually a very highly tourist place. There's a lot of things that happen in Savannah, a lot of tourist events, a lot of fun events. St. Patrick's Day had just passed a month ago, and that's one of a big event I had no idea when I moved here that St. Patrick's Day was so huge in Savannah. Until me and my wife were here. They have a parade and everything, but there's always events going on in Savannah. The luxury of also being at Fort Stewart is that we're close for families. Orlando, Florida is a 4-hour drive straight down to Florida. So if you want to go to Disney World, you want to go to Universal Studios, it's down there. And MWR has ticket options available for military families who want to do that. Atlanta, Georgia is 3 hours in another direction. So we're there's nothing boring around definitely Fort Stewart, Georgia. But so you can have those things that have fun. For me and my wife, we enjoy spending time going out for walks. There's a nice, lovely park right by our neighborhood. We go downtown Savannah all the time to either go to some of the restaurants, the seafood restaurants. I'm telling you, definitely have some seafood in Savannah. So we enjoy definitely going out and seeing everything that the surrounding area has to offer. So yeah, I don't think you'll have any problem finding something to do near if you're happen to be stationed in Fort Stewart, Georgia, just because of everything that's available around you.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir. What would you say to, I guess, new and up and coming, aspiring, people who want to potentially come into your field or work within the Army? What types of, I guess, little nuggets you could leave and to inspire them or to share with them about the path?
Absolutely. So, first and foremost, understand that military service comes with a dedication to duty. So if you understand that and you have a willingness to serve, that's something that you absolutely have to have. The job can have challenges, and those challenges are going to come. But if you have resilience, personal fortitude, you can make it through those challenges. And if anything, the Army is so great at providing opportunities for people to succeed. If you want to become better in whatever aspect of whatever, like the Army has opportunities available. I would say there's no real glass ceilings in the Army. So if there's something that you want to strive for or succeed or strive towards rather, the Army has those things available. And then I would definitely say, especially come into a role like myself, you're a soldier first. So you have to maintain those soldier skills, but you're also an officer. So soldiers are looking towards you to be that example. So definitely you want to definitely make sure that you're always doing the right things, always, maintaining the proper uniform, being in the right place, the right time, all those things that we as soldiers say, because someone is always looking towards you as that example. And you never know definitely who you're interacting with, how you affect their day. So you try to maintain a positive outlook, a positive meter, because definitely when those challenges come, you may need that motivation, but someone's looking towards you for that motivation as well. But all in all, it's definitely a fulfilling and rewarding experience and career path if you choose to take that road. But the sky is the limit. I would say if you're wondering about it, just go out and do it, or try to do it, and see where it takes you. But it's taken me. I'm very blessed and very fortunate to be where the Army has been able to take me thus far. Definitely optimistic and looking forward to where it can take me in the future. So,
thank you, sir. I have one last question for you, and I guess it's going towards the fact that you're in Fort Stewart now, and it seems like you love it there. That's great. That's fine and stuff. But what would be your first or your favorite duty location, and why?
ooh,
It makes it tough, huh?
So in 10 years, this is my third assignment, right? So my first assignment was up at Fort Detrick, Maryland. My second assignment was a little closer to home at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Okay. So Fort Stewart, Georgia, it's pretty high up there. But I'll definitely say, at least from my experience of where I've been, Fort Detrick, Maryland was great because of the proximity to Washington, D.C. So I was able to go to, our nation's capital. I had never been to prior to being stationed there. So I saw all the monuments. I went to all the Smithsonian's, got a lot of knowledge there, but definitely enjoyed my time up there at Fort Detrick. I have lifelong friends that I made at my first unit. But definitely that location was pretty cool. But I definitely enjoyed Fort Stewart. Me and my wife hopefully plan on staying here at least another year, a year or two. She's actually finishing up school, her own graduate program right now at Savannah College of Arts and Design. And like I said, I have ambitions of hopefully soon getting promoted and moving on to that next position, hopefully here for Stewart. And if not, we're looking at other places that the Army has, other installations that the Army has across the globe. So it would be great to have an opportunity to live Oconus if possible. So we'll see. But yeah, if I had to narrow it down, I guess my first assignment was pretty cool being in DC and everything. I got to go to a Wizards game. I was there, so that topped it up. So
awesome. Well, I hope you do get an overseas duty after this, sir. I really do. I enjoyed Korea. I thought it was a great duty location for me. I enjoyed Hawaii, even though it's technically not overseas, but they consider it overseas. So I enjoyed that duty location as well. So I look forward to seeing where you go from here. Hopefully, we'll stay in touch in somewhat.
absolutely.
I really we really do appreciate you today, though, sir, and sharing your experiences with us, sharing a little bit of your history with us. Do you have anything that you would like to leave with us for parting ways for anybody that's inspiring to be in the Army? Maybe your field or not your field. Maybe your last field. They might be interested in doing your last field, maybe.
I'll definitely say it, and I'll shout it out again in the name of Lab Week, the Medical Laboratory Professionals Week. Hey, definitely, big shout out to all the laboratorians doing the lab work throughout the country and the world. The field is advancing, as I said, and what we do is important and it matters to every patient that comes through the healthcare system. So be proud of yourself and pat yourselves on the back. For those interested in laboratory medicine, the Army is a great place to work and thrive in medicine. Whether you're going to enlist and be a 68 kilo medical laboratory technician or you commission to be a clinical laboratory scientist. It's a rewarding field, and you'll definitely see the value in it, in what we do. You'll receive the best training offered from the military, and it will propel you for your future endeavors in healthcare if that's something that you're interested in. The best thing to do is to go for it and be motivated. That's all. That's definitely number one. Be motivated and go for it.
Thank you, sir, and thank you all for attending or watching another episode of today's Army Grandrounds podcast. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Have a good one.